Thank you so much for tuning in to Awakening with Katina Love. We are a conscious channel to learn about self empowerment, the law of attraction, metaphysics, and natural health. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Awakening with Katina Love. Today we have a special guest from Colorado, Mr. Dan List. He is a healer and energy reader. His website is magicalawakenings.com. Today we're going to talk to Dan about how he discovered his psychic abilities. Welcome to the show, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Katina. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. So what started you on your spiritual awakening journey?
I think I'd have to start with curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever I would find or hear about things that I didn't know, I'd look it up, and so I would say, gee, I wonder if that's true, or I wonder if people can do that. And so I just found myself checking things out along, from an early age, like
Mm-hmm.
when I was very young. And so it was like, when I would notice, things, like I would just look it up. And so I started one day, I was on vacation and there was a gift store. They had a deck of cards in the window and I went in and bought it because it wasn't a lot of money. And I was just
Yeah.
kind of curious because I knew it had something to do with fortune telling, but I didn't know what. So
Mm-hmm.
I just bought it, and the book came with no instructions. And also,
Wow.
I didn't have a teacher at the time, so I learned what I learned just by looking at the cards and meditating on the pictures. And then, back in those days, I had other jobs for a living,
Yeah.
and so I made my money, for living by doing other things. But then I just left those cards on my coffee table, and then anybody who came to visit, they'd ask me, "Hey, can you do that?" And I'd say, "Sure," because I was just experimenting at that time to say, is this a good thing to do? Can I do it? Am I any good at it?
Yeah.
And so I would do readings for anybody who wanted it for free for
Yeah.
years, just to see what would happen. And then, of course, I would pay attention to their responses. And a lot, time after time, I had people would say, well, thank you very much. That answered the question for me, or that addressed what was on my mind. And the thing was that I really didn't know how to do it because since I didn't have a book or a teacher, the only thing I knew how to do at that time, besides meditating on the pictures, was I would say a silent prayer to my spirit guides and say, please help me do a good reading for this person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I knew how to do. And
Wow.
so then, I would have the person, shuffle some cards, would put some cards on the table, and then I would just look at the cards and then messages would come to me to give to that person.
Wow.
And
That's
then,
amazing.
when I start to, and this has been part of my learning experience, then when all of a sudden I would say something and they would concur that this addressed what was on their mind or answer their question. And I didn't really know how I did it, but I just was asking my spirit guides, help me do a good job for this person.
Mm-hmm. That's
And so,
beautiful.
then when I would say, for example, if I felt prompted to say something to a person, part of my learning and recognizing this was saying, gee, I don't know if I should say this to this person. So I'd second guess myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I was second guessing myself, the other person would say something to confirm it. So that what
Wow.
would happen was that eventually that's how I learned that I was communicating with spirit, because if I was saying something to a person I didn't even know and it resonated as a truth with them, then it must have been coming through from spirit because I don't know this person. And,
Right.
I didn't just, how did I make this up? So I took that confirmation from the other person. And so eventually I recognized that, in other words, spirit was giving me these messages to give to people.
Yeah.
I even see that today, like when, people who are total strangers, they maybe only see me once, they want to get a reading. And, it's like I'm saying something to this person and they're saying, yes, that's exactly right. That's what's happening. And, they're confirming. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm taking that as a sign, as a confirmation that spirit's the one that's bringing through these answers, because obviously I've never seen this person before in my life. I can't be going on my previous knowledge of them.
Absolutely.
And
And
so, it's just like a feeling that comes through here. Tell this person this. And
right.
originally I was saying, I don't know why I should say this to this person.
I get
Something
that.
missing. But then the other person would say something. And then, so those confirmations come through. So now when I get that feeling of I should say this to this person, I know that these messages are coming through from spirit, because there's no way that I could look at a total stranger I've never seen before in my life and
Right.
say something to them that hits the nail on the head.
Isn't that amazing? It's just a matter of you allowing spirit to use you as a vessel and
Exactly.
to trust that guidance to be able to assist people.
Exactly. And so
Because
I would
we,
say a lot of it is like learning by doing, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So you
absolutely.
have to, you get a feeling. I'm sure that, different people get a different sensation as they're feeling as to here, this is how the message comes through.
Yeah.
But to me,
Yeah.
it's just like an inner feeling, like, here, tell this person this.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to get to that place where you fully relaxed and allowed and trusted spirit to speak through you to help people?
I would say it took me a few years,
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean, I was making my living doing other jobs for, different companies and things. So this was, I was at the time viewing it as like a hobby or an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, since it was a hobby or an experiment and I wasn't depending on that as my way of making a living, it was kind of like I was feeling my way through.
Through it.
So, like, time after time, I'd look for the signs. And so I let it take a few years, because I wasn't like hurrying up to try and make a living with it.
I get it. So
And
if
so,
you,
yes, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just going to say, so other people, just say people who are other psychic readers who, maybe they're doing readings too, and they just want that confidence, or people are thinking about doing that, feel like
Hmm.
they're being led by spirit. What advice would you give them? Where would you advise them to start at?
I would say for any person, and even no matter what kind of modality you're using, the thing is
Hmm.
practice. In other words, you learn how to do things by practice. So, I mean, just think about the same thing. If you want to learn to play a musical instrument, you practice. If you want to learn to play a sport, you practice. Well, if you want to develop your psychic abilities, you practice.
Absolutely.
So everything in life that you want to get good at, you got to practice.
You got to practice at it.
And so I think, practice with the technique or method or whatever you like to use, until you really, are feel that confidence that comes from spirit, like I'm doing the right thing. And a lot of time, in other words, you'll get the confidence or the confirmation from your client,
Hmm. Yeah.
that they'll confirm, yes, this makes sense to me. Yes, thank you for telling me that. Or, you know what I mean? This is what's on my mind. So in other words, you'll get the confirmation from the other party.
Yeah.
And if you're allowing yourself, like I consider that period of my life my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And then, so if you're allowing yourself to do that, then you can take time to settle into the comfort of that feeling and that method, as compared to somebody who just thinks, oh, doing this would be an easy way to make a living. And then they set up a table to make money, but they haven't had any real apprentice time.
I
You see,
get
that
it.
that person would have a harder time making a go of it.
I hear you. I get it.
And I think that too, same way, to extend, from that to, from the cards to other methods that I learned through you. I mean, when I'd hear about something, I would say to myself, gee, I wonder how that, well, same thing like when I learned Reiki or I learned dowsing, I learned other
Yeah.
things, because I heard other people talking about it and how good it was or how useful it was. And I didn't know how to do it. So then I would ask around and say, well, can you recommend a teacher?
Right.
If I couldn't figure it out all by myself, I mean, some things
Right.
you can figure out by yourself, but
Right. I
you know,
understand. Depends on what the gift is, right?
exactly, or the technique. And so it's like, yeah, I wonder if you can really do that, And so then I took different trainings with different teachers during my life. And again, purely out of curiosity, I said, I wonder if my life would get better if I took this course, or I wonder if I learned how to do this technique, it would really work, you know. And so I think we all develop our favorites that way,
Yeah.
like that's why one person likes cards, another likes palmistry, somebody else likes runes, and so on. It's like we all have maybe different techniques that we use that we're good at.
Right. So did you have any, like, when you were born, like your family, like what were the spiritual teachings then at that time?
Well, I was raised in a Roman Catholic household,
Okay.
so it was very strict. I mean, it was everything according to the church. So, of course, there was never a word when I was growing up about anything like believing in past lives or
Right.
karma or any kind of spiritual concept like that, much less tarot or runes or something. So none of that was even a subject when I was growing up. It was just strictly along the lines of the church teaching.
Got it. Same here. So what about like when you were a child? You were saying earlier that you knew earlier in life
Hmm.
that you were different, you were curious,
Hmm.
you used your imagination, which we know is one of the main tools that are necessary to create in this reality that we live in right now. And
Yep.
the main thing that God or Spirit or Universe guides us through is that imagination.
Hmm.
So, can you give us some more details, like how you felt like you were different as a child?
Okay. It's interesting. One of the things my parents taught me when I was a kid was that to use the public library.
Mm-hmm.
And so got to be a real fan of the public library and reading. And so that fueled my curiosity. So that was a perfect place, of course, to keep up looking up stuff you don't know and
Right.
looking up for more information or ideas. And so, I mean, just that idea of searching. So, of course, there were limitations. I wasn't finding out a lot of metaphysical stuff at the time.
Yeah.
But, just the whole idea of reading and researching to find out stuff you want to learn
Mm-hmm.
was early on. And then, of course, later on in life, then I found other ways to learn, like other teachers, other books, other literature, and so on. But the whole idea of learning to read and research was something my parents taught me when I was a little kid.
That's
And so
great.
that I think fueled my, let's say, intellect
Curiosity. Curiosity, maybe.
curiosity. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Curiosity. I would say everything I've learned, I learned because I was curious. It's like, I wonder if that works. I wonder if it's good, and
Right.
so then you want to check it out, you
Just
know?
like those deck of cards, right? That you were talking
Exactly.
about in the
Exactly.
gift shop. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's like if, the same way, like when I was learning Reiki, I learned it because I kept hearing people around me talking about that they learned it and it was good and they had a great experience with it. And I keep hearing them say these things. So then finally I asked them, well, who would you recommend for a teacher? I want to learn more. And
Cool.
so it's just that simple of a step, but it arose because I heard other people talking about it.
I get it. So, what type of readings do you do?
Well, I use a variety. I do numerology,
Okay.
dream interpretation, tarot cards, runes. Let's see what. Oh, past lives, spirit guides. So there's a variety of different techniques. Sometimes when a person wants a reading, I ask them, what is it you're trying to figure out, or what do you need help with? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, the answer they're looking for can determine the method you're going to use to get to it.
I get it.
And
Yeah.
sometimes too, when people come to me, and let's just say, for example, if they are all stressed out over their, let's say, relationship or their career or something,
Mm-hmm.
and they might say, "Well, I'm here for a reading," but I say, you are so frazzled and your energy is so out of joint from what's going on. You actually could use an energy clearing more than you could use a reading.
I get that. I get
And
that.
so sometimes I'll advise them that way, and a lot of times people will take my advice and say, okay, or maybe I'll do a part of the time I'll do a reading for them and then move them over to the Reiki table to do some energy clearing, and because it's kind of like if you're all stressed out, then
Right.
you
Right.
need to clear that stress so you can make your next decisions with a clear mind.
It makes a lot of sense.
Also that you feel peaceful within yourself, that you're making good progress, or you're doing the right thing, or that you really are on track. And it's kind of like, by also removing the negativity, like negative thinking or negative energy. And so sometimes I'll steer a person away from a reading into the energy work because I think it could help them more. And like I say, sometimes a session will be half and half.
I get it. So, what are all the other services you offer?
Well, let's see. I also do house blessings.
Okay.
Because a lot of time people have, negative energy in their house, and so I have to go and clear the house for them. Or sometimes like a new family and moving into a new house, they want the house blessed for good energy
Yes,
before they move
yes.
in or as they move in. So that's another related service. I would say that's probably all the different things I do, Katina.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's quite a wide range of services
Yeah,
that you offer
it
there.
is.
Something that pretty much that everybody needs.
Yes. And I also tell you this, I'm happy to refer to other professionals. Like, in other words, I don't do mediumship, like, in other words, talking to people's dead relatives.
Okay.
I'll refer them to somebody else who does, because, or
Okay.
sometimes people come to me for pet psychic.
Okay.
So I don't do pet psychic, but I know people who do, and so I'll give them their number. So I'm happy to refer people over to other people that have skills that I don't have, or different skills than I have, because I think, I don't want to fake it,
Oh, of
and
course not.
pretend that I can do those things. I would rather just do the things that I know I'm good at and turn those other things over to the other people.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I think, of course, with each of those different things, I think there's something else to learn. Like, in other words, uh, mediumship, I think, requires some different kinds of practices than the other kinds of things we do. I
Right.
think if you want to learn to do that well, you need to practice some other techniques. And at this point in my life, I don't know those other techniques. So that's what I mean. Like, maybe I could learn that too, but I haven't, like, say, felt strongly motivated to learn those other techniques at this time.
I get it. So just to clarify, tell us again what type of readings you do so
I
people
do things like
know.
numerology,
Numerology,
tarot cards,
tarot cards, which is
runes.
what is tarot cards?
Tarot cards is a deck of cards where, in other words, we can pull some cards to find out, um, let's say, ideas and advice to point to solutions for a person's life. Because a tarot cards have a whole set of 78 cards. There's pictures of every aspect of life in their work, love, life, death. The whole thing is in there. And so we shuffle the cards and we do a spread. And Carl Jung, the psychologist, was the one who coined
Yeah,
synchronicity. He said
heard
there
of
aren't
them.
no accidents in life. So, like, in other words, when I'm shuffling the deck, this is chaos, because you got all these pictures of life all being shuffled. But then I'll spread them on a table and let the people pick the cards for their reading, for their spread. So when they're choosing cards from that deck I shuffle, they're bringing order out of chaos.
Okay, okay, okay.
So you see, even though, and you can watch them when their hand is moving back and forth to decide what to pick,
Mm-hmm.
something is prompting that person what cards to pick, even though they're all face down.
Right.
So
So
you
you're
see, there are
making
no
it.
accidents, because that person who's asking for the reading is the one who's picking the cards.
Yes.
And so even though all the cards are on the table face down, they're picking them, they're getting the message they want to see, because spirit's guiding them to pick this one, pick that one.
Right. Makes perfect sense, right?
So, in that way, I think a lot of people like cards too, because they're very visual. There's
Yeah.
pictures, you know.
It's
Whereas
symbolism.
yeah, where runes are more pure symbolism. And, most people, they're all straight line symbols, and so a lot of people look at them and they don't know what to make of them.
I get it.
But they do work beautifully well, and like, I'd say maybe the minority of all people who come to me for readings want that. But it is a good method to use too. Dream interpretation is good for a lot of people too, because a lot of people will come and say, gee, I've had these crazy dreams I can't understand. And so then, of course, after they tell me their dreams, I'll help them to interpret them.
That's
Um,
awesome. Wow, that's
and
cool.
then with the past lives and spirit guides, is primarily a clairvoyant. Like, in other words, I can get things by looking at a person's face.
Oh, wow.
So, in other words, like, I'm just looking at a person's face. I can see their past lives. I can see their spirit guides. So it's for me,
Wow.
clairvoyant.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Well, different people pick up things different ways. Some people, pick up by voice, clairaudient, or some people clairsentient,
Mhm.
by touch, like psychometry. But me, I can see things by just looking at a person.
You can see. So would you say you're a seer as well?
A seer, yes. Hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
And the
think.
thing, sometimes too, the other thing that I would say, I don't ever do a reading for a person unless they ask me.
Ah, I see. I love that's good. That's good because you're
Well, you
respecting
have,
that
have
person.
boundaries,
Yeah, you're
because I have
respecting.
met people who are very gifted, but they have no boundaries and they just walk around
Ah,
spouting things.
I get that too. So you're
So,
respecting
I'm
that
just,
person's space.
yeah, exactly, respecting that person's space. So I don't ever do anything for a person unless they ask me.
That's beautiful. So last question. So gosh, I had another question. I forgot what it was. So if someone so you're located in what part of Colorado?
I live about an hour north of Denver.
Okay. And then so if people are in that area, if they want to come to you for a reading, they just can go to your website,
Yeah.
magicalawakenings.com. So you
Yes.
do them in person as well as
Actually, you can find me on Google real easy too. I mean,
oh,
see, it's geographically kind of oriented. I mean, if you Googled me nationally, I don't know if you'd even see me. But if you were in like Colorado, in northern Colorado, and you Googled for a psychic or an energy healer or Reiki healer or something, I'll come up. So I mean,
that's
very
great.
geographically, you know what I mean. Um, and so a lot of people just find me by Googling. If they're looking for a reading or an energy healer, they'll just Google and they'll find me.
Because what I was going to say also is that you don't just do them in person, but you're global. So they can
Yeah.
Skype you. You can do it on Zoom, or you could
Yes.
do it
I like
video,
working with people
Facebook.
live and in person, but I do have clients from around the country. I've done a couple from other countries, but not a lot,
Okay.
mostly in the US. But yeah, if a person lives far away, Skype readings, or you can do through Facebook Messenger, or, some of these other methods, or Zoom, any of these methods where you can communicate long distance. And I like to see a person when I'm talking to them. That's why I like the Skype or the video kinds of views, because I actually, because of course I pick up things by seeing a person too, as well as
Right.
talking to them. So whenever I have an option, I like to use one of the methods where I can see them while I'm talking to them. And of course, all of those things are free. It's not going to cost you anything to go on Skype or Facebook Messenger.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but if a person prefers not to be seen and just wants to do phone, I'll do that. Some people just, maybe they're self-conscious about being on video.
Okay, beautiful. So they can find you on Facebook,
Yes. So
Google, or your website.
yes.
And
So if a person's somewhere else in the country, I can talk to them by phone or by Skype or Facebook or whatever.
okay, beautiful. And it's easy to find you because your name is Dan, Dan, and Liss, Liss. So you're pretty easy to find. I actually did Google you last week, and you did come up like within the first one or two
Ah,
searches.
good.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Well, I think of it like this, Tina. Think of it like there's billions of people on the internet, there's billions of websites, and I think anytime somebody says, I always ask a person when they call me for an appointment or email me, how did you happen to find me? Have I seen you before? Are you a referral, or did you just Google me, or what? And they said, anytime they say I was just Googling and I found you, I figure Spirit wanted us to connect, because
Yes.
about all billions of people in the world, if you're telling me you were just Googling and you found me and you decided to call
Right.
me because you saw my website or my picture or whatever, I think that that's a clear sign that somebody wanted us to talk or somebody wanted us to meet.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
then I promised my spirit guides I would take good care of whoever they send.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Is there a like a quick, we got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Is there like any type of a testimonial that you like to share how you helped to guide someone on their path?
Oh, man.
I'm sure you have a lot.
I have a lot. I have a lot.
Just maybe one
I,
that sticks
well,
out for you.
some of the ones that are really heartwarming, because sometimes it's just nature of this business. Some people you see once and never again,
Yeah.
and some people you see repeatedly. But I definitely love it when somebody comes to me and they're all frazzled and everything, and then by the time they're leaving my office, they're smiling, they're feeling lighter, they're feeling better, and that you helped improve their life. And certainly there have been people that have, had more than one session with me because they were going through a problem time in their life. And I think some of those testimonials that I've gotten back from people that I've known for a while has said, thank you very much. You were very encouraging and supporting of me when I really had a problem. And now it's a few years later and I'm doing good. And it's because the advice you gave me.
Well, that's beautiful.
Because there's some people that really kind of blows my mind. They'll say, 3 years ago when I came to you, I was a mess, and now I'm doing good.
I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're open now. You're taking new people if they want a reading or need some energy healing or whatever type of service they need
Yes.
from you. They can just go to your website. Spiritual. What is it? I left that page again. Magical Awakenings. Yeah. MagicalAwakenings.com.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy. And I make myself available 7 days a week, which differentiates me from some other people too, because a lot of time people say, well, I need an evening appointment because of my schedule, or I need a weekend appointment because of my schedule. And I will make myself available 7 days a week for clients. And then I'll do my personal stuff after I've taken care of my clients.
Well, that's beautiful. Thanks so much for being a guest today, Dan, to share your spiritual awakening, your wellness journey, and how you became a psychic.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Katina. It was a pleasure talking with you.
You are welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in to Awakening with Katina Love. Namaste.